What is going on, everybody? We are back with another reaction video. Thank you so much for joining me today. The support truly means a lot. And to all my new viewers stopping by, welcome to the family. Welcome to the family. I hope you all enjoyed this video today because I know I will. Today we are back with another highly recommended video. I will be reacting to, could an army of Europe actually happen? Could an army of Europe actually happen? Yes. I feel like it needs to, because the trust in the U.S. is gone. And I know you guys feel the same way. The trust in the U.S. is gone, especially our president is becoming a bully. The friendship, we had a good, it was good while it lasted, We had a good friendship, but now we're becoming the bullies. Not me, though. Just our president becoming a bully, man. And considering that America has basically just voted with North Korea, Iran, and Russia, yeah, that's a big issue. Oh boy, I knew that was gonna happen, though. I knew that was gonna happen as soon as the terrorists started. I said, oh, you know why? Because he's trying to get on their sides. Yeah. Let's get right into this video. I'm not wasting no more time. Could an army of Europe actually happen? Good question. Please feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and turn all post notifications on. And please feel free to spam my comment section and use that suggestion link down below in my description if you would like to recommend some of these phenomenal videos from me myself to react to. Now let's jump right into it, man. I'm not wasting no more time.
The idea of a European army, or something to that effect, has a long history. It was first seriously considered in 1952, when the US pushed for West Germany to be rearmed so that it could join NATO. For obvious reasons, France weren't so...
Am I wrong? I could be wrong, but I feel like, did the United States actually stop Europe from creating its own army or their own military in like the 2000s? Or just flat out the 2000s? Or I could be off. I could be off a little bit. Somebody please clarify me in the comments down below, like you guys always do, man. Oh man, y'all be supporting me in the comments. Helping a brother out.
And so instead proposed creating a new European defence community via the Treaty of Paris, which would have combined the armies of all the members of the European coal and steel community, France, West Germany, Italy, Belgium, the Netherlands and Luxembourg, under one supranational command, with the intention of forming a political union in the future. The French Parliament, however, didn't like the idea of giving up national control of their army, refused to ratify the treaty in August 1954, and West Germany ended up joining NATO. France tried to resurrect the idea again in the 1960s, when French President Charles de Gaulle, who really didn't like NATO or the US, tried to transform the European Economic Community into a security alliance of sorts. But he didn't get anywhere because the other members of the EEC decided they were happy with NATO. This has always been the main obstacle to an independent European security policy, and it's probably the main reason that French President Emmanuel Macron's efforts to get Europe to take security and, quote, strategic autonomy more seriously have largely failed. Why would you create a new European security architecture when you already have NATO, which covers most of Europe and includes the world's biggest military in the US? Nonetheless, pretty significant progress was made towards an independent EU security policy around the turn of the millennium, when French President Jacques Chirac and British Prime Minister Tony Blair signed the St. Malo Declaration in the aftermath of the Yugoslav Wars, which laid the groundwork for the development of the Common Security and Defence Policy, or CSDP. This was followed by a series of agreements setting out a framework for defence cooperation, which included allowing the EU to use NATO assets. The EU then embarked on its first peacekeeping mission in North Macedonia in 2003, and soon deployed European troops in multiple peacekeeping and civilian missions around the world under the CSDP. Although it's worth stressing that the CSDP is just a framework. In other words, it doesn't legally bind EU militaries to do anything, just provides a forum for them to discuss cooperation.
Oh, okay.
But progress towards a European army halted, and then regressed in the mid-2000s for two reasons. First, in 2004, 10 new countries joined the EU, 7 of which were formerly part of the Eastern Bloc, and 3 of which were ex-Soviet countries. In part because these countries were mainly worried about Russia's neo-imperial ambitions and were generally pretty friendly with the US, they overwhelmingly preferred NATO to the idea of an EU army. Second, the Iraq War in 2003 divided France and the UK and laid bare some of the more fundamental strategic disagreements between the two. This meant that France had to rely on Germany instead of the UK to front any European security policy. But this never really worked because, well, the German army just isn't strong enough, especially after Merkel's austerity-era cuts. There was then some chatter about it in Trump's first term, mostly led by Macron, but nothing really came of it, both because Trump didn't end up being as NATO skeptic as some commentators worried, and because he was promptly succeeded by Biden. However, the idea has returned to the table in the past few days, after Trump began negotiating a peace deal with Russia without Ukraine's input.
You all wanted Biden out of office so bad and wanted Trump back, and here you go. And here you go. Look what we got going on now. Now we all about to start paying skyrocket prices, man.
And told the Europeans that they would be responsible for guaranteeing Ukraine's security after the war. This would probably require tens, if not hundreds of thousands of European troops, which is why over the weekend, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky claimed that, quote, the time has come for an army of Europe to face Russia. While no other European leaders have used quite the same language, on Monday they met in Paris to discuss their response. And EU Council President Antonio Costa told the Financial Times the EU needs, quote, a new security architecture. So, could some sort of European army actually happen?
Yeah.
Well, there are reasons to be sceptical. Most obviously, the creation of a European army, at least if it were to happen under the auspices of the EU, would require unanimity from European leaders, which feels very unlikely. Poland's foreign minister has already come out to say that Poland would veto any moves towards an EU army, insisting that, quote, it will not happen. And it's hard to see even more Eurosceptic leaders like Viktor Orban in Hungary agreeing to this sort of thing. It's also worth saying that the EU has a lot on its plate at the moment, with various outstanding disagreements over issues like debt, and it's not clear it has the bureaucratic bandwidth to sort out another new treaty and create an entirely new army.
I'm gonna wait to the end of the video. Debt. How bad is the debt?
Nonetheless, there are at least 3 reasons to think the idea of some sort of European army is more likely than you might think. First, what looks like the death of NATO. As we mentioned earlier, NATO has always been the main obstacle to an independent European security policy. Europeans prefer to lean on America's massive military might, and there was a sense that a new European security policy would just duplicate what Europe already has with NATO, and possibly even interfere with or undermine the alliance. However, NATO does look pretty defunct at the moment. The Americans have been pivoting away from Europe towards China and the Indo-Pacific since at least the Obama...
We know. We know.
administration, and NATO's apparent reinvigoration under Biden now looks like a fleeting interruption to this trend rather than a reversal. Second, it's a surprisingly popular idea. In April 2022, a couple of months after Putin's invasion, YouGov ran an international poll asking Europeans if they'd support the creation of a, quote, integrated European army. In every country apart from the UK, more respondents supported the idea than opposed it, and the percentage of Europeans supporting the idea had risen markedly compared to 2021. And third, it might be surprisingly cost-effective. European countries, many of which are already struggling with unsustainable debt burdens, are struggling to increase their defence budgets. Coordinating and combining spending via some sorts of joint European effort would be more cost-effective, both because Europe would be buying in bulk and because this would force all European militaries to buy the same systems, which could be more easily combined, allowing for the same firepower on a lower budget. This would become even more tempting if the EU decided to fund this via further joint borrowing, which is something both EU Foreign Policy Chief Kaja Kallas and Macron have suggested, and something we talked a fair bit about in a previous video. All in all, while a full-on European army does still feel unlikely in the near future, deeper cooperation between national militaries and on issues like procurement seems inevitable, and who knows where it'll ultimately lead, especially following the fallout of this weekend.
How do you guys feel about this? Do you guys think this should actually happen? You guys think Europe should create their own army? Yet again, I feel like all these soldiers might have to get retrained. They're going to have to go through a whole new training process because everybody has to be trained the same now. We all got to be equipped with the same abilities and weapons. We all got to have the same idea of what's going on. We got to just be one. We got to be one and united. That's what that means. So I feel like everybody's going to have to go through a whole new training process. How do you guys feel? Or do you think if this were to happen, it would just kind of happen? Like, okay, we are all in one now. Here's your new uniforms. And would the training stay the same? Because that's what I'm thinking about. Like, dude, these guys got to get retrained now?
Munich Security Conference. But actually following along with news like this is pretty difficult in the current landscape. We're increasingly being flooded by misleading content, algorithmic feeds that just back up our biases, and reductions in fact-checking efforts. It almost feels like people are intentionally making it harder to get to the truth. One way you can cut through the noise is with Ground News, a website and app on a mission to give readers an easy, data-driven, objective way to read the news. Every day, Ground News ingests over 50,000 articles from all over the world. Every story comes with a quick visual breakdown of the political bias, factuality, and ownership of the source's reporting, all backed by ratings from 3 independent news monitoring organizations.
Nice.
For example, take reporting about Vance's speech we mentioned at the start. Right away, you can see that the story had over 362 outlets reporting on it. 28% lean left, while 43% lean right. Every story also comes with a detailed view of the bias distribution, factuality scores, and even specific ownership information.
Nice.
So you can see how reliable the reporting actually is.
Yeah, because a lot of these news, oh my goodness. Like, I don't watch the news, guys, because they lie. They are biased. I don't watch the news at all. I can't. I got to get my information from YouTube, the comments.
You can also swipe through
Sometimes I figure things out on social media. You know, I find things out on social media.
As a wake-up call for Europe, while the left was more likely to criticize the speech and accuse Vance of hypocrisy. But my favorite part has to be their blind spot feed, which highlights stories that are being underreported on one side of the political spectrum or the other. This not only helps you redress your personal news bias by reading stories you might otherwise have missed, but also gives you a better perspective on how the media ecosystem is being manipulated and shifted to fit political objectives. Ground News is such a useful tool for our current media landscape, cutting through opinion and noise with a feed free from manipulation or algorithms, and I can't recommend it enough. In fact, if you subscribe today, you'll get 40% off their Vantage plan. That's under $5 a month for unlimited access to every incredible Ground News feature. This offer is only available here, so...
That's not bad, I'm not gonna lie. You got me thinking, man. I'm supposed to be saving so I could come visit Europe, but you got me thinking now. But I mean, I could find accurate information on my own, but this is way more easier. My goodness.
Make sure you go to ground.news for news platform working to make...
How do you guys feel about this Europe creating their own army thing? Is this just, you know, an idea up in the air, or is this actually going to happen? Now, I know some of the leaders have denied. Did he say vetoed? They have vetoed it, meaning no. It's never going to happen. But I feel like this is something good, and this is something that needs to take place. Honestly, I personally feel like Europe should turn to itself and give priority to its own industry and products without having to rely on false allies, and just build a stronger connection between its own countries. Europe needs to build its own independent national and continental defense forces. And don't get me started on Canada. Canada has vast supplies of minerals and ores in order to manufacture modern defense technologies and hardwares, should I say. Why not partner up with Canada? You don't need the US at all. Canada and Europe both must diversify their economic dependence on the US consumer market. That way, they can strengthen their own economic security. I mean, that sounds pretty good to me. Fair enough. Now, if you guys agree with what I'm saying, please feel free to let me know in the comments down below. And if you beg to differ and have another idea, also, please feel free to let me know in the comments down below. If you guys enjoyed this amazing video, please feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and turn all post notifications on so you don't miss another one of these reactions. Please feel free to share this video and this channel to your friends and family members, whoever you feel may be interested in joining me for these reactions. And also, feel free to spam my comment section and use that suggestion link down below in my description if you would like to recommend some more of these phenomenal videos for me, myself, to react to. Once again, I'll catch you guys in the next reaction video. Stay safe.